I have taken it on as a personal challenge to go through some of my old Xbox 360 games and try to play the hardest I'll have all the Call of Duties, but normally what I usually do is play like the easiest version, or like maybe a middle version. I never play like the veteran.
It's impossible.
Why would you do that?
Just because I want to challenge myself. Well, I've gotten through 2 of them, and I'm on the oldest one, Call of Duty Black Ops, which is like 5 years old. And I'm stuck on this one thing where I have to go through 3 rooms of just absolute carnage to get to the next thing. And I've been stuck on it for 4 days, and I want to take my.
You just have to do it. Sidney Crosby doesn't go down to the AHL because he's like, you know what? I want to score 50 goals, but I can't do it in the NHL, so I'm going to go to the AHL instead. That's what you're doing.
Nobody plays the one-player game on Call of Duty. You just play online against 18-year-old kids who tell you how old you are and then shoot you 6 times.
Dan, you want to see somebody get wasted after about 3 seconds? That's me.
Yeah,
if I go on
the way to do it.
The online version.
I don't play anymore because I don't have time, but I can confirm I was quite good at that game. My kill-to-death ratio was above 1-to-1 in the good number. So my advanced analytics were good for Call of Duty.
Let's just say I'm not devoting hours. I'm not devoting hours of the day to it. I like 15 minutes, like in between periods. Instead of listening to Mike Milbury and Keith Jones, sometimes I would rather just kill some people on Black Ops.
I think a lot of people
That's
feel
not a
that
bad
way.
idea, actually.
I think you're speaking for a lot of people there.
What, Ross?
Combat 20, because I haven't played that enough. Maybe in between periods I'm going to start doing that. That may be a good idea.
Yeah. It's a tension reliever.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to Mike
Doing
Milbury.
2 finishing moves in between periods, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
If only you could put like Milbury's face on one of the characters.
Oh, jeez.
Well, at some point it's going to flash above Keith Jones, finish him. It's going to happen.
I love it. That's awesome. I was never into fighters or first-person shooters so much. I mean.
That's all I'm into. I love.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
I love Call of Duty.
That explains a lot, actually.
No, I mean I know a lot of people who are. I have a lot of good friends who are, and yeah, I mean they are pretty amazing. I don't need that kind of stress. Like,
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I'm a sports title guy mostly. Mortal Kombat's about my only thing that I stray away from in the fighting world.
Did you ever play Heavy Rain? I played that one.
No.
That was actually like Game of the Year. It really is just a game where you're walking around in a heavy rain, but it's like a mystery.
Texas, if that were the case. Oops.
Right. You could either that or you could spend like an April day in Secaucus. It's like basically.
Hey, I work in Secaucus.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, they always say you can smell Secaucus before you see.
You know what? I'll tell you what really bothers me.
Easier to smell it.
When I'm on the Northeast Corridor train and they have to stop at Secaucus, because that stop never used to exist for like 10 years of me taking that train. Now the last, like 5, 6, 7, it exists. It annoys me. I hate that stop.
Wow, I didn't realize that you worked. That's so funny. I didn't realize you worked in Secaucus. I am very sorry.
Oh no, please, no. We all joke about it. No, don't apologize.
That's the home of WR, wasn't it? Or isn't it?
It's My 9 now. Yeah, there's My 9 there.
My 9.
And
my go-to
network is where MSNBC used to be. MSNBC went into the city, and
no wonder
MLB went in there.
And MLB,
Right.
MLB Network, I think, is in Secaucus.
Yeah, that's where I am.
That's
Yep.
where he's working. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, to me, my go-to towns for humor in the New York metro area have always been Secaucus, Hoboken, of course,
Yep.
And Newark.
And
Newark's easy. Yeah.
Well, not Newark. I like to go for West or East Orange. Like I think those are the ones that
Mine's always Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Right.
And Peabody, Massachusetts.
Peabody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peabody's
And
a good one.
Chicopee, Mass is good. Worcester.
And of course, who can leave out Cheektowaga, New York?
You just stole my thunder. My hometown, the land of the pink flamingo, Cheektowaga, New York.
Cheektowaga, New York, where I spent a week there one afternoon.
Yes.
I actually hate Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, because it has nothing to do with Jim Thorpe.
Yes.
Oh man.
Speaking of which, there's actually parts of Bridgeport, if you ever take the Metro North train through Bridgeport, that look like a Call of Duty level.
Yeah.
You would think the Spetsnaz Russian special forces are chasing you.
Well, you know the story of Connecticut, guys. Originally, I was watching a really great documentary called "How the States Got Their Shapes." Did you ever see this
It's a cool show. Yeah,
isn't it a cool show?
Real cool show
on the History 2 channel. And originally the colonies all stretched across to the Pacific. So
Yep.
Connecticut was one of those ones that just went from all the way across the Pacific, and then basically Pennsylvania bullied them out of some, New York bullied them out, and Ohio bullied them out, but there was still a little corner there that was theirs. So there was actually they were separated out, like Connecticut and New York, and then Connecticut again.
Yep.
And then they just ceded that because they didn't feel like fighting for it. Like Connecticut, and they're the third smallest state, and definitely not a whole lot of get up and go type feelings in their past.
They had their NHL team in a mall.
Hey, come on, let's be careful. If it wasn't for Connecticut, you guys would be speaking the King's English.
That's true. Connecticut, there's great things in Connecticut, and I've spent plenty of time.
Spies.
I've actually never encountered anything great in Connecticut, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, you got to come up. You got to come up if you like.
Although I will say this, my co-author Adam Rader for my book Numbers Don't Lie for the New York Mets is in West Hartford, Connecticut. So
West Hartford's nice. Parts
I was gonna say Hartford's the capital of insurance in the United States. So what does that say?
Well, there's two parts of Connecticut. Central Connecticut is very boring, and the shoreline's awesome.
The shoreline, like Mystic, Connecticut.
Nice. The seaport there is nice. I agree.
Mystic is beautiful. Like, it's a great place to take a date or a wife or someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great place to go.
Mistress.
That's where I meet my mistress.
Going there now. This is like the Dolly Madison. Is Dolly Madison sponsoring this segment?
Was it? No, Ashley Madison, right?
Ashley Madison.
AshleyMadison.com. That's a
Dolly
messed up
Madison
website.
was the first lady of the United States.
Dolly Madison. It's Ashley Madison.
Isn't it Ashley?
It's Ashley Madison.
Yeah, that's a messed up website.
I have with this.
All right, I'm ready whenever you guys are.
All right. It's a good time to get off this topic.
What's the order?
Let's go. Yeah, we'll go to we'll go Mike, Dan, and Russ.
Okay.
Here we go. It's the 27th. We're not sponsored by Ashley Madison. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. How you doing? It's Wednesday, May 27th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
You had one job, Tampa. I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Oh, yes, and I am Eklund. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com or listening on Alpha Geek Radio or TuneIn Radio or wherever you listen to your finer podcasts. And no, my head is peeling. I got a lot of sun, so I'm not coming down with some sort of illness up here in my head. But yeah, I'm definitely peeling. I'm a really bad sunburn this weekend. Hate the sun. So and speaking of things we hate, let's talk about the game last night. That was a heck of a, oh my gosh.
Last night?
Yeah, who would have thunk it? I mean, we talked about this yesterday. Russ, you kind of were all over this. I mean, you actually had a feeling that something like this could happen.
Yeah, I didn't think 7 goals, but I just, Tampa has not exhibited that killer instinct to me. And I learned at a young age, and we probably all did, when you're sort of playing basketball, you're playing baseball with your friends, and you could beat them in the game, and then you're sort of toying with them, and then they actually beat you, and then you're like, I am never doing that again, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden get the eye of the tiger. And I remember it happened to me when I was 13 years old. And at that point, I never let another friend beat me one-on-one. I never let it's like,
right.
Even if they're a friend, I didn't care. I cremated them if I had to. I put them in the ground. And, and the thing is, and so the Rangers kind of sensed that, and they probably could tell that Tampa just had no...
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Russ is frozen.
Yeah.
Tampa had no what, Russ? No what?
I just lost you guys. Guys, I'll be right back. I'm losing you too.
You're losing us too?
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Oh, there we go. You're back.
Okay, we're here.
Okay, never mind.
But Russ is frozen into not an exactly...
Well, when Russ comes back, we'll unfreeze him. But
yeah, but Mike, your thoughts on this game?
Well, to me, it was a carbon copy of Game 4. Well, there's Russ. Continue your
You
thought.
said Tampa had no.
They had no killer instinct. It just, you could just tell after the first couple of goals that they weren't giving up, but that all of a sudden they were like challenged. And they played a better second period. They did. But then Ben Bishop, when he let up that third goal, he kind of looked to the sky, and I kind of was thinking to myself, he knows this game is over. Like,
Yeah.
he let up the winning goal there. And then goals got a little easier for the Rangers. But the snowball effect from that is, look, Rick Nash may have gotten goals late in that game that didn't really matter, but it might have mattered to his psyche.
Yeah.
And Handel got a goal there late in the game that didn't matter, but it might have helped him realize if you shoot the puck on net, anything can happen. And so I think those things are really going to help the Rangers in Game 7, not to mention Lundqvist is 10-0 in elimination games at the Garden, has a .972 save percentage career in elimination games, and it's 15-3 in elimination games overall. Those numbers are going to be daunting for Tampa no matter what little wrinkle they give, but there's some hope for them. I mean, obviously they have Stamkos, and Kucherov seems to own Lundqvist now. Like, that's problematic. They really need to put the clamp on him.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because this series has been completely, if nothing, unpredictable. So where this goes from here is, to me, it's so up in the air. Like, I feel as if, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the Rangers came out of that third period like they were shot out of a cannon. They were playing downhill hockey, and suddenly Tampa couldn't. They had no answers for it. Tampa's defense had no way of handling the physicality of the Rangers, which suddenly the Rangers were a physical team, which makes sense. I mean, Brassard and Nash, these are physical players, but they haven't been playing physical hockey. But they came out and they were playing physical hockey all of a sudden, Mike.
Well, no, I mean, like I was saying before, this game was almost a carbon copy of Game 4, where the only difference was that New York got up 2 goals. In Game 4, they got up 1-0, and then Stamkos tied the game, and then the Rangers dominated from that point on. This game, they get up 2-0, and I didn't think Bishop was strong at all throughout the entire game. They didn't have that many shots on goal going into the third period, and then he was letting in a goal on almost every shot. He made a great save before the goal that made it 3-1, but he was sort of out of control, and it was just not, it was more the fact that he was big and he blocked the puck rather than he made a great save.
I think Kilroy steamrolled him though, Mike.
Yeah,
his own guy took him out.
True, but I was saying on most of the other goals he was out of position. He was slow. I mean, he had a terrible game, and I think as this series has gone along, it's been proven that Tampa needs him just to be effective, just to be solid. If he stands on his head, great. If he's bad, they're screwed because they have, I think, an advantage at forward. Their body, I think the Rangers have an advantage on the blue line, but if the goaltending, I mean, the difference between Lundqvist and Bishop is a great deal, and they just need Bishop to come up a little bit to give them to close that gap a little bit, and if they do, Tampa has a fighting chance. I predicted Tampa in 6. I think Tampa's done now because I can't see them going into MSG with all the things that Russ said, with the experience that the Rangers have in closeout games, and that team walking in. And apparently, John Cooper, and I don't know if this is a cop-out, but John Cooper in the post-game remarks said, a few of his players are a little ill with the flu, and there's gonna be a couple days. They'll get rest for a couple days, and maybe that'll improve them. But the task of them going to MSG in a Game 7 and winning is Herculean. I don't think they can do it.
A couple things I took away from last night. First, if Rick Nash just realized now that he is allowed in the crease, this series is absolutely over. If he just realized that he can go there and it's okay and he doesn't get a penalty for it, this series is over. He was great last night. Brassard was great last night. If they played a heavy game last night, I felt like the Rangers made the Lightning quit. They beat the snot out of them in the third period, and the Lightning are like, you know what? We're done. We'll see you Game 7. We're done. And oh man, it was amazing to watch. It was actually infuriating to watch a little bit too, because you could, the Tampa still got a couple goals late in the game, but you could just see like, all right, we're done. We're mentally checked out of this game, and there's still 12 minutes left. Kudos to the Rangers for what they did last night, because not only did they beat them up physically, it's almost like they took their will away. And I don't know how Tampa bounces back from this. There is nothing nothing that shows me right now that gives me any semblance of confidence that the Lightning can bounce back and win Game 7.
Well,
Here's
Dan,
the hope. Here's the hope for the Lightning, in my opinion, and because I do think there's hope for the Lightning. The hope for the Lightning is, first of all, it is a big bonus that they're not playing again until Friday.
Yes.
That definitely is a big
It's
bonus
huge.
for Tampa. If they're coming back again tomorrow night, because that gives the Rangers another day to think about it, another day to another day of people telling them how they never lose at home. Game 7, you know what I mean? It's not what the Rangers don't love, and they never have loved being favorites. You know, that's something that this team does not love to be. They don't. That's why winning the President's Cup is always a mixed blessing for them. It feels like they have that, because all you hear is in the beginning of this series, man, the announcers in between periods were making me crazy. The Rangers, the President's Trophy winning Rangers, they should be better than the and we're like, well, they won the President's Trophy by a few points. It was a couple wins here and there, a couple shootout wins that the other team didn't get. I mean, they aren't by far the best team in the NHL, and they don't love being in this position, right? So, but that also could bring Zuccarello back. That's the other question. I would not bring him back for Game 7,
Right.
But that's what I wanted to ask you, Russ, because I have my memories of this are Lindros coming back for Game 7 against the Devils. Remember? And I just don't think that when your team's rolling, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I guess I'm probably wrong. I mean, it's more superstition than anything else.
I think you're on the right track because, like yesterday, I said the fact that he was working out with the team and skated with them, and the last picture you saw was him next to Lundqvist. I think that did give them the emotional lift I was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think he has to come back next game. I think he already give them the emotional lift just practicing with them. I would go a step further and have him take the line rushes too, just to screw around with Tampa's head. I would.
But now you have an extra day, so I mean, he could be back. I mean,
but even if he isn't, it's not a big deal. If he is, it is a big deal. But either way, I do think they have Tampa figured out enough that they can eke out this game. Tampa's going to score goals, right? They're even in yesterday's game, they scored goals. Kucherov is definitely going to score. Stamkos will probably get on the board. They know that. And I think Lundqvist probably knows if he could limit him to 3 goals, he can win now, because now his team is able to at least put up 3 or 4 spots.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Russ, that from the Tampa side of it, when your best player last night, and I'm not counting the 2 by the way goals late in the third period, when your most effective player through the first 2.5 periods was Ryan Callahan, you're in trouble.
Right.
I mean, Stamkos, other than the incident that got them the power play that got Callahan's goal, where he hit McDonough and then Kreider hit him and cross-checked him, that exchange, Stamkos was fairly invisible, and the triplets were fairly invisible until late in the third period when the game was already decided. I mean, that's what John Cooper is going to have to do. He's going to have to get performances out of his best players in a crucial Game 7. And I also think they need to get Hedman stepping into the offensive rush more, because I still don't think the Rangers...
Hedman did do it a lot yesterday.
He was trying to, even down the stretch, even when they were down, he was trying to. I agree with you, Mike. I mean, I kept asking myself, when did the Tampa Bay Lightning become the Pittsburgh Penguins? Like, they were playing like the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Loose.
Like they had all they suddenly got. It's almost like they have had so much success offensively that when they don't have success offensively, like the Penguins, when those guys aren't going on the Penguins fold, and that's what the Lightning did.
That's the schizophrenic nature of this series so far, because you have Tampa Bay playing their best defensive game of the series in Game 5, and then they play loosey-goosey in Game 6. And if you look at the 2 games before that, the wide open 6-5 game, and then they get pounced. What was the final of Game 4? 5-1. I mean, their game is to play, with speed and play wide open offensively, but they've been competent defensively. But in 2 of the last 3 games, they've been incompetent in their own zone.
Well, I think another thing to look at too is, through 20 minutes, the Rangers were really good. Through 40 minutes, the Lightning pushed back. That going into the second intermission, it felt like the Lightning were coming, and you're like, okay, they've been crap for 40 minutes, but they're still in this game. It's still only 2-1, and then the doors just fell off. Yeah. So, like I said, the Rangers came out in the third period, and they said, this is our season, this is our backs against the wall, and they stepped on their throats, which is something you have not seen from the Rangers this entire playoffs. They have squeaked by so many 2-1 games. It was almost like they said enough was enough last night. We're going back home for another game. and that was very impressive from what you saw in the final 20 minutes last night.
Well, and I think Lundqvist is the one that set the tone because he's made the adjustments in the series, right? Because he did get blown out a couple of games ago. And then in that third period, if you remember, like literally 3 seconds in, he makes an unbelievable save that could have tied up the game. I felt like after that, Tampa sort of was like, oh, wow, we can't really figure this guy out. And the other thing was Lundqvist in the last 2 games has been way more aggressive than he's really ever been in his entire Ranger career as far as coming out of the crease. There's a couple times in that game where he came out so far that Girardi or Stahl had to really cover for him in net. But that's something now where he's got this extra confidence that he feels like he can do that now.
He has an aura of invincibility, Russ.
Yep.
An aura of invincibility. I like it.
And with that being said, Tampa still scored 3 goals.
Right.
Tampa's going to score. They're going to in Game 7. I would fully expect them to score at least 2 goals. Maybe if you ask me right now, I would say the Rangers would win 4-2. The Tampa is going to score some goals. If Lundqvist can't get out of that paint, because a couple times he gets caught in between, they're going to rip him by him. So as amazing as Lundqvist has been, I guess the beacon of hope for Tampa is they know they're going to score goals. Can they repeat the defensive performance they had in Game 5?
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, and I think they can. I really do. I don't see any consistency from either of these teams. So there's no way of thinking that this is going to be another blowout. I mean, the Rangers have figured out how to play this team. There's no question about that. But can they do it, or will they do it, or will they just do what they sometimes do in these Game 7s, and that's rely on Lundqvist, to win the game for them?
I mean, that's what they've been doing since like 2009. So I mean,
yeah,
they're doing that.
Oh yeah, no, that's what they're doing. I know, and that is their mojo. That's what we've seen from them.
If Vegas was taking odds on what the final score of Game 7 would be, I would say 2-1 would probably be the odds-on favorite. So I mean, I think it's going to be, not that Tampa is going to want to feed into that, because I think the advantage in a close checking defensive struggle still goes to the Rangers, but they may not have an option. It may just be that's the type of game it's going to end up being, like Washington and the Rangers did in Game 7. It could even go to overtime. But the thing is, I still think the Rangers have the advantage in a game in MSG against a team with not a ton of experience. I mean, the funny thing is that the players that are the most experienced on Tampa Bay got most of their playoff experience with the Rangers.
Well, other than Filippola, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the really interesting thing here is if the Lightning go down again for some reason to like a 5-2 loss or a 6-3 loss or what have you, where does this put Bishop moving forward? It really, because Vasilevsky, I think everyone sort of feels is the goalie of the future for this team.
Right.
How soon is that? How soon does the future come? I guess that's my question.
The question has to be: you have to pay Stamkos very soon. How are you? Some of these kids are going to get some significant raises. Maybe, hopefully, you hope Yzerman can get some of these kids like Killorn to a nice bridge deal. But at some point, those triplets are going to be getting a raise in a few years too. So you're going to have to free up some salary at some point. Obviously, Coburn. At some point, you push him out. You get Olin out maybe at some point. But at what point? You have to look at your cap pretty soon. So is Bishop the cap casualty since you have control over Vasilevsky and he projects to be a dynamite goalie? They're going to have some very tough decisions to make shortly.
I always felt Bishop was a 1A, and then he sort of proved me wrong for like a year. Last year was like, all right, maybe Bishop has turned the corner. Right. Now I'm sort of looking at him again as a 1A, and I'm going to stick to my guns on that, where I think Vasilevsky does have the number one mentality. Now, look, coming into that game yesterday, he did make a couple of great saves, but that's just a bad situation for a young goalie to come in.
I mean, this off season is the time when a team, if they're looking to shop a goaltender, is the right time. I mean, San Jose, Edmonton, a number of other, St. Louis, although he originated in St. Louis, I don't know if they would want to go back to that again. But there are teams out there that are looking for a goaltender, and I believe Bishop has 2 years left and making close to $6 million.
Right.
Like Dan was saying, I mean, Killorn, Cologne, Palat, Johnson, or I think they all have one or 2 years
Johnson
left.
Johnson has 2 years left.
Yeah, and making about $3.3 million. Stamkos is up after next year, and of course the rumors have already started regarding him regarding, he's going to be looking to get, what Taves and Kane got, and I don't think he's going to take a hometown discount. So, does Tampa Bay have the financial wherewithal to pay him $11 million a year, or do they decide, okay, we're going to pay everybody else and trade Stamkos or let him go? I don't think that's happening. I mean, I used to think that there was a possibility, but, it's going to be very interesting the next couple of years with Tampa Bay.
Well, it's more possible than it's been before. It's more possible than it's been before, but I still don't think we're there yet. But I think that it is more possible that Stamkos could be moved. I mean, as time plays out here, if they are in a situation, with this, because Johnson, he's their guy. I mean, I think he's made apparent that he's become.
Stamkos? I don't think so.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I just don't see, Russ, the only thing is I don't see him taking that, Crosby Malkin $8.79 million deal just to, just so the team is more competitive. I mean, Chicago, I'm not sure if they're going to be competitive with both Taves and Kane making over 10. But Stamkos, is arguably he's a top 3 or top 4 player in the league. He deserves to be paid that amount. So, I mean, if he doesn't break 8 figures, something is wrong.
No, I mean, he'll get a 10-year deal, and maybe there'll be an out in 5 years or something like that, in case the franchise does need to get out from under. But there's no way, in my mind, that Stamkos is leaving. It's like any other team. Eric Stahl has never left Carolina, and we know Carolina has had troubles and are having financial troubles now. And the one thing about the NHL, and I don't think there's a hard and fast rule about it, obviously, but Gary Bettman does like each team to have a franchise sort of flagship guy. And if you look around the NHL, every team has one.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Just real quick, Tyler Johnson has 2 years left at $3.3 million. Palat has the same, 2 years left at $3.3 million. Killorn has 1 year left at $2.5 million. And Kucherov has 1 year left at $700,000.
Yeah, the bridge deal for Kucherov, bridge deal for Killorn. Then you'll have to, in 3-4 years, really make a decision.
Right.
Right. We're gonna be stuck there. Well, I mean, I think it's gonna be a fascinating game on Friday night for sure. It feels like we should be making our hotel reservations for New York next week, but we'll see where we're going with that. Because I still feel like anything. It still very much feels like anything's possible. And you sit there and you watch the Rangers and you see all these stats that you threw out, Dan, and they're all totally legit. And Lundqvist time and time again has come up as a Superman in Game 7. His confidence can't be higher. His team can't be higher. Confidence in him. So hard to eliminate the Rangers in Madison Square Garden. It's been a long time since anyone's been able to do that. I just think that it just feels to me like almost the Rangers won too easily in Game 6.
Right. Right. Go ahead, Russ.
I was going to say, Doc Emmerich fell into this trap that I fell into early into my writing career. He did it last night. When I covered Tampa when they won the Cup in 2004, I was like, wow, look at the youth on this team. This team could be set up for multiple Cups here. And they had the best line in hockey, right? They had LeCavier and St. Louis and Brad Richards. That was one of the best lines I'd ever seen in a Stanley Cup. And yet they won 1 Cup.
Right.
And I watched the Devils eliminate them, and I covered that, and that locker room was as somber as can be. And I felt, and honestly, probably the big difference as to why they never won again was Hobby Bullen. I think that definitely killed them. But now you're saying the same thing. They're saying it about Tampa again, and we're probably talking about them switching a goalie again. And it just shows that you really have to have that franchise goalie, or you will never win multiple Cups in the league. It just will never happen.
Yeah.
It was Hobby Bullen, and it was the fact that they were paying with the cap lower than it is now, paying 4 players in Boyle, Richards, St. Louis, and LeCavier, 35% of the team's salary cap? So there was no room for secondary players. I mean, this team is in a very different situation with all the young talent that they have, but they're going to run into that problem like we just said. So, we'll see.
Multiple Cup winners just seems like impossible in this era. It just
it really does. I mean, but we've seen it we've seen Chicago, basically do it.
And the Kings.
Yeah, and the Kings too. I mean,
but the Kings have the franchise goalie, as Russ is saying.
Right, which is what you need. I mean, at the end of the day, this sport is about the goalies. I think
Chicago has transcended defensemen and in Taves and Kane, 2 of the most money players we've seen in a generation.
Right.
and Hossa. But the thing is, if we're going to start talking about game, well, we'll talk about that in a bit. But I mean, the fact is, they're going to probably have to move out either Bickle or Sharp, maybe Crawford. Maybe both. Maybe Crawford. They're not going to be able to afford Johnny.
I think they can move out Bickle and Sharp without it affecting them at all. I mean, I really do. I think that because at this point, Brandon Saad and other players have stepped up into that role. Like Saad's doing what Sharp used to do, and that's his role. And whether or not they can actually get something for those players, is another question. I think that's going to be tricky. I mean, Sharp, I don't know what Sharp's value is, or
they'll get draft picks back.
Yeah, and Bickle has.
What does Sharp get on the market right now? I was thinking about that too. Does Sharp get what the return that Letty got? I don't think so.
I think Sharp gets a prospect and a second round pick. I was
thinking that too.
Yeah, something around.
I'm going to coin a term today, guys, an NHL hockey term. So from this point forward, I'm going to put this term together, and it's going to be my blog tomorrow. So I want everybody out there who's listening, and the folks on the panel to use this as much as possible, because I believe that there's a new term that I'm going to use for UFAs, and it's based on Boychuk and Letty last year, and more of those type of players this year, because I think we're going to have that same situation again, and that was just the beginning. We're going to call that when a player gets lead chucked.
I love it. Hey, those two guys ended the rebuild, and now all of a sudden our defense looks good for the next 5 years.
Right. So
I'll lead chuck all you want.
Sharp could be lead chucked this year very easily.
Lead chuck.
If you think about it, those situations in those two teams were, I mean, the absence of Letty with the injury to Roosevelt may kill the Blackhawks because they're forced to play Kyle Comiskey and Kimmo Timonen and maybe Trevor Van Riemsdyk tonight. And Johnny Boychuk, his absence with the Bruins when Zdeno Chara went down severely affected the chances of the Bruins making the playoffs. And now, they're probably going to go through a sort of a mini reset with Don Sweeney as their GM. So the lack of management of the cap and maybe the lack of willingness on the part of Chicago to sign Letty to a long-term deal really affected those two clubs.
And I don't think anybody has the cap figured out. I really don't. And
No.
Look, and for even people that want to call like Glenn Sader a genius because he got the guys he's gotten, I mean, he's severely mortgaged the Rangers for the future. I mean,
oh yeah, they have to win now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be trouble for them in 2-3 years. So I don't think there's one team in the league that's sort of like the 49ers where they were in the NFL, where they seemingly could circumvent the cap every year. I don't think any NHL team is capable of doing that anymore.
Realistically, Russ, the Rangers have a 2-year window.
Yeah.
I mean, Nash has got 2 more years left in his deal. Yandel for 1. I mean, I think next year and maybe the year after that, when they probably lose Yandel to free agency, they're going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference and a contender for a Stanley Cup. But after that, the draft picks that they gave up, giving up Duclair and the deal for Yandel, it's going to catch up to them. But by that time, say there will be smoke and stogies in Florida, and Jeff Gorton will be the general manager.
He'll be in Banff. He won't be in Florida, but that's another story.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, as we talk about Ledchuk here, Gart Snow could easily call the Blackhawks and Bruins again this summer and pick up Lucic and Sharp for very similar deals, probably.
Yeah, you're right. And
they have the cap room. I'm looking at the cap. They have $14 million in cap space.
Yeah, but they have young guys that they need to let play and figure out what they are. They've got to figure out what Griffin Reinhardt is.
Oh, he's not right. Well, you talked. I don't expect him to be in the roster next year. I'd be shocked.
Why do I think that Patrick Sharp is going to end up in Florida?
Yeah, I kind of think that too.
Because
Dale Talon likes him, remember Talon brought him to Chicago, so
right.
And Talon tends to like his guys, and Gallant, he's a definite. He would be a good fit for the Panthers. He would be a good pickup. That's a young team that needs leadership like that. It's a good team going in the right direction. I think the Panthers are going to be they're going to be a tough team. Bringing back Yager is going to.
They have the space to do it too.
Oh yeah, no, they've got tons of space, and they've got to make decisions on guys like Scotty Upshaw. There's a lot of things going on in Florida that they've got to figure out.
And I continue to believe that that I'm writing a blog today about what I think the top 5 destinations for Phil Kessel will be, and Florida is on that list.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to be.
A team like Montreal makes sense because they need scoring, although I don't know how anxious Brendan Shanahan would be to have to face Phil Kessel 6 times or 5 or 6 times a year. But I don't think that's his main consideration. I think his consideration is getting the best package back. But there are a number of teams that need the instant offense that a guy like Kessel would provide, and Florida is one of the places I think would make sense.
But why does Florida seem like this dumping ground? I mean, it's sort of like a terrible thing where it's like every person in the media is like, well, this contract's kind of bad. He should go to Florida.
Or Phoenix, or here.
Because they're one of the few teams that can take on a big bad contract because they're so far down on the list. I mean,
Talon's going to keep taking these contracts on. He's won a Stanley Cup, and he kind of knows what it takes to win. And I know they're probably desperate to make the playoffs because they need that revenue. But I don't think he's going to take a guy if he really doesn't think he could win him a cup. I really don't. I think Talon is going to sort of shut the door on some of these bad contracts. I do.
Yes, I agree with you but I don't. I see. The thing is, outside of Toronto, I don't think the team being interested in a guy like Phil Kessel will consider it, being a dumping ground because Phil Kessel is a top 10 NHL scorer.
No, Kessel's fine, but even a Sharp has shown nothing this year, and he's going to want 3 or 4 years on a deal, even though Talon likes him and had him. He probably knows him better than anybody else, and it looks like Sharp is a guy who used to have a game predicated on speed is now slowing down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and he was a great role player within a great system in Chicago too. Sharp really fit perfectly there, and I mean, not that the Flyers didn't make one of their worst trades of all time when moving him, but
you turn it to Chris Versteeg, who all of a sudden
right
really good at one time in Chicago too, and has never looked good again for more than 20 games at a time.
Right, and Sharp, was a Team Canada player too, so we've seen a lot. He's definitely has stepped up, but yeah, I think that he could get lead chucked in a big way. He's one of those guys for sure.
Lead chucked.
And there's a lot of other ones, like Mike Richards and Justin Williams could be lead chucked. There's some players I think that are really.
But see, to me, the definition of the lead chuck is somebody who has 1 year left in their contract. Richards has 5.
Okay.
That's the difference. I mean, Sharp has 1 year left on his deal. He's making a little over $5 million. He's still got something left in the tank. He can contribute. A team like a Montreal, a team like that needs to take that next step in the playoffs would make sense for a Patrick Sharp. Or a team like the Islanders last year where they needed those 2 missing pieces to take the next step.
Yeah.
Mike Richards is a dump deal. It's 5 years at $5.75 million, and he didn't prove when he came back at the end of the year that he was any better than he was before when he got sent down to the AHL. So it's either buyout or dump with Mike Richards.
For sure. Let's move on to Chicago, Anaheim, by the way, while we're here, and then we're going to get into the coaching carousel, which continues in the world of hockey today. So Chicago, Anaheim, this is the one. We've seen moments when the Rangers have looked amazing. We've seen moments when the Lightning have looked amazing. We've seen moments when Anaheim has looked amazing. Chicago really is doing it with mirrors in my mind. This is the one team that they've looked good, but they are. I mean, it's funny when you sit there and, like I said yesterday, Anaheim could be up 5-0 in this series, but they're not. It's like it is literally that crazy of a series, and at this point, But now we're looking at Chicago. We're looking at the big building, the United Center. This is a place where I don't think you're going to eliminate them there. Are we seeing a Game 7?
I don't think so. I look at Chicago like that girl on Seinfeld where she looked good at one angle, looked horrible at another angle. And
excellent.
I think Chicago the other night was like, you know what? We're giving too much respect to Anderson, and that's why Seabrook threw that crazy shot on the side of the net. And I think they just figured, you know what? We're just going to try and fool him here a little bit because we have experience, and we're just going to shoot it on the net. And I think they got by in that game, and that's where I think you're coming from as far as getting by, because that was an amazing game for them. But I think Anaheim can close the gap on that and really sort of take over the game, because they've been able to take over games in this series with their size, with the two big centers. I've been talking about the two big centers for a long time, and Kessler and Getzlaf are killing teams, just killing them, because usually there's some relief from a first line to a second line, but when you have two bruising centers like that could kill you down low, win faceoffs, play defense, it's really hard to match up against them. And it's not like Chicago's an old team, but Anaheim has forced Chicago into mistakes, like the Patrick Kane mistake the other night. So I think Anaheim can do it.
And I'm waiting for the fatigue to set in with the Blackhawks defense, and I think
they have to. Yeah, they have to be on fumes.
Yeah,
I think it's already there. I think playing tired, and I think they're already seeing it. But I think the fact is they're finding ways to win despite it. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, but it's not manifesting itself by like overt mistakes. I mean, I think tonight, with Keith playing so many minutes, I mean, the overtime, the triple overtime and the double overtime games, he played 45 to 50 minutes. That's got to eventually affect him, and it might happen tonight. I mean, I know that they're going to bring supposedly they're going to bring either Rundblad or Trevor Van Riemsdyk back, but even if they do, those top four guys are probably going to play 25 minutes a night. And, Anaheim has done an effective job of beating on them and wearing them down, and, that's where their advantage is. I mean, I think, going into the series, I thought Anaheim was deeper at forward, and they've been able to score with all four lines. So it's going to be a tough task. I think Chicago will win tonight, but going back to Anaheim for Game 7, I think the Ducks are probably going to win it.
Yeah, it looks like Chicago is just, it's almost like the core of the Blackhawks is just trying to will this team through.
They're doing it.
Your Tage, your Keith, they're Kane, they're holding on by a thread. They know what they are right now, but yet their experience and what they've been through and their pedigree, they are just trying to will their team when they know that they're smoke and mirrors. Because you can't get by playing 3.5 defensemen in the playoffs. You just can't. It's going to catch up with you. And I think the Ducks have done a great job of just banging on those defensemen. And I really like the Ducks' fourth line in the last couple of games. Really, they have really just caused some problems. Not necessarily scoring a lot, but creating opportunities and just hitting everything. Hitting everything that moves, and that takes its toll in a long series.
And it does. And the Ducks are about as fresh as any team. We've talked about this before. About as fresh as any team can be at this point in the season. I mean, they have played these long games, but they played very few games down the stretch of their regular season. They had a lot of breaks then. They played a 4-game series, a 5-game series.
Yep.
Against two teams that weren't very physical.
Consistently, they do. They never give up on the 4.
Yep.
Right.
When you control your four lines, and your fourth line, when you have the faith in your fourth line that they can take a shift and not skip a shift, and they're consistently out there, and you can put them in any situation, you got something going.
Yeah.
That helps everyone else through the roster because you're not wearing out your top 3 lines when you have complete confidence that your fourth line can play 12, 13 minutes.
I mean, speaking of Mike Milbury, the thing that's making me crazy about this series, watching it, is that he keeps wanting to make Anderson into some kind of he talked so much about what a bad game Anderson had last game, and it wasn't a great game, but Anderson's been pretty darn good in the playoffs. I mean, he gave up a couple bad goals. There's the first Taves goal. There's no way in the world he was going to stop it. I mean, the second one, but he made great saves throughout the game too, and he made great saves in the game before that. Anderson has not been the problem, and I think they're reaching for that, with Anderson. I think that he's going to be fine. He's not going to maybe be Lundqvist, but he's good. He's plenty.
A commentator is always looking for the GOAT or the scapegoat, and I think that Anderson in Game 5 was the easy target especially because of that last goal.
Right.
It was on the goal line. He should have been against the post. Yes. But
also the Ducks had 3 chances to get the puck out of the zone too. So I mean, It's just there's plenty of.
But right now, Crawford's mentally fragile too. I mean,
Crawford might be worse than in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked that they didn't pull him. We talked about it the other day. Basically, Quinn goes well, I can't, and it's okay. So now you're going to leave Crawford in, and they know you're leaving Crawford in, and Crawford's got problems. He does. I mean, Darling may be better to bring in at this point, but they're not going to do it.
What's the deal with that, Russ? Why are they not pulling him now when they had no problem doing it against Nashville? That's what I don't understand.
I know. I think the problem is they probably all huddled together and said, listen, we can't lose this guy. He's under contract for X amount of years. We know we've got a little bit of a goaltending situation here, and Darling is not long for this team. We can't continue this way. And so I think they're going to just go down with the ship with Crawford, even though I wouldn't. But I think that's.
No, I hate when teams do that. I mean, if that's the case, I can't stand when teams make their decisions based on
not get pulled. I thought he would get pulled after the third goal, and then I said, well, there's only 4 minutes left in the period. They'll come out with Darling in the next period, and they didn't.
Yeah, but you know what? Darling was exposed late in the Nashville series. I mean, he played good for a while, but then he really didn't. I think he let a few bad goals in that game. I think it was Game 6 against Nashville, and they've gone with Crawford ever since then. I think they realized that the answer is not there. So it's better to stick with Crawford, because Crawford, once he came back in late in the series against Nashville, he played great against Minnesota, and he's had moments in this series. But they can't really go back to Darling a second time.
But now Chicago knows they have to score 4 goals to win.
Right? Yeah.
And that's hard for a team to do in the playoffs. It is. And especially with Anaheim's defense. Because Anaheim may not have the best defense in the league, but they've got a very mobile defense. And that's the thing that's really helping them, guys like Lindholm. They get the puck out pretty quick. And so, like, that's, they got to score 4 goals. That's the way it is. There's no way Crawford's getting a shutout, right? We all agree on that.
No way.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I mean, Getzlaf and Perry are just too good anyway. I mean, they're crazy, and and that line Maroon has been really good. I think Chicago might have enough left to get this back to Game 7, but I think it does end there. I kind of agree. I think Anaheim in a Game 7, Anaheim at home is going to be too tough, and that's when fatigue should start. But I think there's enough adrenaline to get them through this game tonight in Chicago. But we'll see. I mean, it is the kind of thing that if Anaheim gets up ahead a lot on them again, like we've seen them do before, that Chicago might not be able to come back this time. Like this to me is if it's a 3-0 game after the first period tonight for Anaheim, it's not. I don't think Chicago might have the energy to pull that off again.
I think Chicago realizes they can't take a breather against this team. They were up 3-1 in game 4. They blinked and they were losing 4-3.
Yeah. No, the Ducks can swarm.
A 60-minute effort where they're on their game completely, and if they're not, they can't beat them. I think they'll suck it up and do something at the United Center in front of their fans. But then, Game 7, I give Tampa more of a chance to win at Madison Square Garden in Game 7 than I do Chicago in a Game 7 in Anaheim.
Yeah. No, but can we all, before we move on to the coaching, can we all agree on one thing that one reason Tampa should not be allowed to go forward in the playoffs is because of this reason only? Have you been following the jersey thing that's happening in Tampa?
Yes.
I mean, this is absolutely the most absurd thing. They are banning since the Montreal series have been banning people from wearing the opposing team's jersey in the arena.
Yeah, I saw someone yesterday that tweeted, a "Let's Go Ranger" chant just broke out at the arena. I'll alert guest services.
Right. I mean, this is absolutely horrific, and I mean, it's not as if these Tampa fans are particularly violent people.
They've been doing it in Major League Baseball, and now they're sort of taking that tact, and it's a dumb tact. It makes you look weak and stupid, and it's like if your fans can't buy out the tickets.
It does. It makes you look like you have no confidence in yourself. It makes you look like you don't believe in your own thing. Yeah, it's really brutal. And, I mean, that for no other reason is sort of why I've sort of turned away from Tampa. In
a country that's supposed to champion individuality and free speech, to ban a person wearing a Rangers jersey in Tampa sounds like the game is being played in Soviet Russia.
Right.
It's an absolute frickin' joke.
Look, I can go see the Islanders versus the Blue Jackets on a Wednesday afternoon in October, and there'll be some clown wearing a Rangers jersey there.
I mean, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even.
There always is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Rangers aren't even in town.
I wouldn't even think that was a positive at Air Canada Center with Montreal jerseys. They have a right to do it. They paid their ticket. Let them do it.
Well, there's that, and they paid their ticket. Let them crash. No, they airplane. Sorry. No, but the whole thing of I mean, even the zip code thing, for buying tickets is bad. It's really bad.
Like, look, you live in people in Florida. Most people haven't originated from there. It's a migration state. It's where people retire. So you have a lot of people from the rest of the country. So you just have to deal with that. If your team's good enough, just be secure in your own team.
And I'm sorry, as a fan who has gone to Sabres Leafs games since I was 11 years old. The most exciting game of the year in Buffalo is Leafs-Sabres. Why? Because the crowd is 50-50. Mm-hmm. Because there are Leaf fans wearing their jerseys at First Niagara Center. That's why. And to have that go the way of the dodo bird is idiotic.
Hey,
it's actually louder than it is in Toronto, correct, Mike?
Correct.
Of course.
their money's green. I mean, at the end of the day, if your front office is cashing the checks, I don't see what the problem is.
Actually, the Canadian money is see-through, Russ.
That's a whole different thing. But I'm talking about in Tampa. It's just stupid. It really is.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and it's troublesome, and I get it. I sort of get it, but at the same time, they need a little more confidence in themselves than that. And all they're doing with this thing is they're assuring that their local scalpers are going to get more money for it. That's really all that's happening, because
there's so many former New Yorkers who live in Florida that I think. That's the main concern.
People are using, like somebody told me, they could use the zip code of a friend of theirs to go to the Nashville game when they were, for that series, for the Chicago series. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just like enough. Anyway, let's talk about Peter DeBoers. DeBoers is the coach of the Sharks, we talked about him being the right move for Buffalo. We thought,
right.
I think he's the right move for San Jose as well. I just think that I actually do like this move. I like it a lot. Russ, your thoughts?
No, I think it's a good move. He's dealt with veterans, so he certainly can handle veterans, right? He dealt with Marty, and Marty could be a handful at the end there, and so I think he'll do fine there, and they have enough young players where I think they can sort of work with them and turn the corner. It's just I give Wilson tremendous credit here, because by doing this now, he has put all those other teams at a severe disadvantage, because now big names are running out. Dan Bilesman now is like the prettiest guy out there, and he may not even be the best anymore, but he's just the guy that's left. I mean, Dan Bilesman's agent is the happiest guy on earth.
Of course.
Oh yeah, and New Jersey's really pushing for Bilesma too. It looks like he's going to end up in Buffalo. It's not, from what I've told. There's a big push there, and Bilesma's probably getting.
It looked like Babcock was going to end up in Buffalo too.
Yeah, right, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall regarding Bilesma and the Sabres for all the things we talked about yesterday. And the thing is that the team that's left hanging out there is New Jersey. I mean, I know that I've heard, and you mentioned it in your update act, that Guy Boucher's name has been mentioned in connection to New Jersey. When I was at the press conference last Thursday, Brendan Shanahan said that Boucher had some head coaching opportunities still in the league. And 2 and 2 together, New Jersey makes a bit of sense, because he's sort of that defensive coach that fits with Lamoriello. Now I don't know if it fits with Shiro, so we have to.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we have to see who's running the show there. If it's Boucher, I still think that means that Lamoriello's got a lot of sway. If it's something that's not usual for New Jersey, a coach who's more offensive-minded, then maybe Shiro is actually running the show.
Well, the Shiro Bilesma thing is fascinating, because it's just it is. If you remember, it wasn't in the really rare scenario that Shiro didn't fire Bilesma. In Pittsburgh, he got fired and Bilesma stuck around. So they still have a solid relationship, and they really worked well together in Pittsburgh. So
it's been 2 days though that they've had permission, New Jersey, to talk to Bilesma, and you got to figure if he's not hired at this point.
Yeah.
They're not going that way.
I think it's money between. I think you're looking at a little bit of a bidding war, is what I heard. It's just I think going back and forth between Pittsburgh and between Buffalo and New Jersey. I mean, Buffalo has a lot of Buffalo has Eichel, New Jersey has Shiro. There's a lot. Working with Shiro is something a coach loves to work with GMs that they trust and they know. I mean, that's the biggest thing for a coach, is having a GM. I mean, what does Bilesma know of the GM in Buffalo? He doesn't know what to expect from Tim Murray, so it's yet with Shiro, they know they've worked together before, they've had success together before.
Well, I mean, Bilesma. I mean, the connection with Bilesma and Murray is tenuous. Bilesma was a player with Anaheim when Murray was in the Ducks organization, so there is some connection, but not a strong connection like Shiro and him. But Terry Pegula is not accustomed to losing bidding wars. He lost one very public one last week. I don't think he's going to lose one to New Jersey.
Yeah, no, I don't think he is either. I mean, I think Bilesma will end up there, and I think, whether or not it's a good fit for Buffalo, time will tell. I mean, I think Bilesma is a modern coach that works well in the NHL, the way the league is going, the speed the league is tending towards. But you have to wonder, this is such a copycat league. If Anaheim wins the Stanley Cup, where does it go versus if Tampa wins the Stanley Cup? There's definitely a difference there moving forward. And the one thing about Tampa going down now is there's part of me that feels like the good guys are losing. Like what I want is I want free skating. I want, skilled players to have a high value. And I'm not saying that the Rangers don't have that or, Anaheim doesn't have that, but sometimes you want to see a team like Tampa get rewarded for going for it offensively when so many teams just go for it defensively and end up winning.
I mean, are you equating the Rangers winning with the 95 Devils?
No. But I mean, the Ducks are definitely more defensive. The Rangers are not
the Ducks
defensive.
Have plenty of skill, though. It just so happens that their skill players are 6'5".
Right.
Yeah. No. Oh, I know. The Ducks have tons of skill. The Rangers. I mean, these are all very fast teams. There's no question about it. All four of these teams. They might be four of the fastest teams in the NHL. So it's not like we're looking at slow hockey in the future. Teams.
Right.
Everybody. I mean, and that's the common thing that every coach says. I mean, they said it in Philly at the press conference. They've said it at every press conference I've heard. Is that we have to get faster. The NHL is a league that has to get faster. There's no question that if you can't skate, you're in trouble now, Russ. I mean, you know this from the scouting thing. This is a league that's totally tending towards speed right now.
No, it is. But, I'm looking at Boucher's numbers, right? And he went from having 103 points, being second in the Southeast, losing in the conference finals. Then he was third in the Southeast, missed the playoffs. Then he was fourth in the Southeast and fired. And it's like, if I'm the Devils fan, I'm not happy if that's my coach. I'm sorry.
Right.
There's nothing trending upward for this guy. I would rather have somebody with a 0-0 NHL record than a guy who I already pretty sure will have one good year because maybe he gets the ear of his team for 1 year, and then after that it starts going downhill again for the next couple. Like this to me, and if I'm a new owner, which the Devils have, am I really on board for Guy Boucher? I think they're going to go with something else. I mean, I think they're probably looking at other options. Then if they have no other, then they'll hire Guy Boucher, but I think that's why he's not hired now.
Well, if Boucher doesn't get the job, then either him or Paul McLean is probably in line for the top assistant's job with the Leafs, because I've heard that been mentioned a couple times over the last week.
That would be kind of surprising because Babcock, I would think, the kind of coaches he usually has as assistants aren't those kind of coaches in my mind. But we'd see, how it plays out. We don't know.
He had Bill Peters, who's now the Carolina coach. He had McLean in Anaheim and Detroit, and he ended up as the Ottawa coach. That's a stepping stone. But the thing is, McLean and the Leafs basically said, they want to assemble a coaching staff, and A, they want the quality coaching staff, and B, they want a coaching staff that other teams will be envious of and maybe take coaches and get compensation for some of the coaches that they have. So McLean might be a guy who in a year or two another team is interested in, and they can get a third-round pick as compensation for the guy.
Yeah, because everyone takes coaches from teams that are losing every game.
By the way, did the Red Wings officially name their coach?
No, they're not going to. They're not going to do it until after Grand Rapids is eliminated, but everybody says that it's Blashill.
No, I know. I just think it's kind of funny that, when we talk about this coaching carousel, we talk about Detroit because we're sure that they're going to hire this guy, but they won't announce it.
The weird thing is that there's no reason for them to really wait until after Grand Rapids gets eliminated. I mean, that's their team too. It's all the same. There's no point in this.
It feels weird. It just feels weird for a franchise like the Red Wings to sort of do it this way.
Actually, it's totally congruent with what the Red Wings are. Like the Red Wings the Red Wings leave their guys in the minors until the very last second, right? So that's what they're doing with their coach.
They want to hold a press conference. They want to make a splash. They don't want to do it like in his office in Grand Rapids. They wanted to do it in Detroit. I mean, that's what I think it is.
Were they going to do it?
I'm sure that's what's happening.
Wait, they're going to do it at the Little Caesars headquarters right after the Grand Rapids wins? They're going to have a pizza party? Like, what's it going to be?
Yeah. Exactly. They're going to have some cheesy bread and some chic pizzas.
Walk along the river there from the hotel to the arena that we did so many times, Russ. That was the time. They're taking, just bring yourself some mace and a nice. You'll be fine. All right, that's all the time we have for today, folks. On that note, tomorrow we'll be back again, and it will be Thursday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Today's only Wednesday.
I can guarantee you tomorrow will be Thursday.
Thank you, Russ. That's an E5 on tomorrow being Thursday. Remember, without the buzz, guys, it is just hockey. Enjoy the games tonight.